This time I got a Sony CCD TR68 that was shipped in, and the owner wants me to check it over, check the alignment, and give it a good once over to see if there's anything wrong with it. So let's get started. So this time I've got a Sony CCD TR-V68 High 8 Handycam that was shipped in. I have no idea what's wrong with it. The person that shipped it, however, broke a major federal law by shipping this with a battery attached, because you can't ship lithium batteries through the mail. And when I ship this back, I have to sign a declaration that there is no battery with it. And if I check that there's no battery in it, and there is, and it gets inspected, well, guess who they come looking for? So unfortunately for this guy that shipped me the battery, it's going to have to be shipped back to him without the battery, and the battery will have to be shipped separately by a separate carrier, or he'll have to have it shipped by an alternate means other than post that will accept batteries, because both the Canada and the US postal regulations prohibit shipping lithium batteries, specifically lithium batteries, unless they're specifically packed and they don't go through the postal system, just because of the risk of fire, because mail goes on passenger aircrafts, and batteries such as this have to be shipped by cargo aircraft only. I know, silly, huh? But that's the way it is. If you're shipping me a camera, don't include a battery, because I mean, there's a good chance this battery, being as old as it is, it probably won't hold a charge anyway. But even at that, it's illegal to ship batteries through the mail. And now I have to actually sign a declaration that there is no batteries, and I get asked if there's a battery on it, and I have to actually check that there is no battery on there. So it puts me in a tough situation, because if I say yes, they won't accept it. If I say no, they'll accept it, but if I get caught, there's a problem. So typically these have to be shipped back by cargo, which could end up costing more to ship it that way because it contains a battery. Alright, now that I've finished that spiel, I think some people probably are not aware of that, but that has been the case for a number of years, ever since lithium batteries started spontaneously combusting when they were damaged. And that's the problem, is that they can get damaged. That's why every time I get sent a flashlight to review, or a battery pack or whatever, it is not shipped by post. It's shipped in by FedEx or UPS or one of the other carriers, and it's shipped in by cargo plane or ground. Okay, let's see what this camera is doing. It's I heard it beep when I plugged it in. See if it turns on. Okay, it's on there. I did not see anything else. If the viewfinder, oh yeah, the viewfinder's on. Black and white tube. Let's see what this is doing. It's in the player position. So I've got a tape. We'll load up a tape and see what the message is I get, if I get a message. Figure out what's wrong with this one. This is the good old B mechanism. I'm just kind of giving it a quick inspection to see if there's anything missing, which it does not appear to be. Looking at playback, I don't see much wrong with it. I'm seeing what looks like a fair number of dropouts. If you look at the picture in the middle here, I'm seeing what looks to be like an awful high level of dropouts. So that could be dirty heads. I mean, this could have the same problem that the last one had. The connectors starting to get gummed up, because this is certainly of that era that the connectors get gummed up. But looking back at my notes, he wanted me to check the alignment. He felt the alignment was off a bit on it, and it might be off a bit. So we'll pull this one apart and just check the alignment and check the connectors, because if they haven't been done, they need to be. Also, I'm going to take a look at that, see whether the ribbon cable is starting to get cut through, because that was also an issue with these ones, was that the ribbon cable got cut through on a lot of these ones. This one looks to be okay. Don't see any indication that the ribbon cable is in any way damaged on this camera. One of these days I may set up a live stream in the shop here. I tried a few tests, just live streaming some older videos there last night. And for those of you watching this video today, obviously if you're watching it 2 weeks from now you won't know what I'm talking about. But what I may do at some point is set up a second camera and just live stream an entire repair. What do you guys think? I obviously won't be able to chat with you. I can maybe do it on my laptop so I can watch the comments coming in real time and talk to you while I'm doing it, and of course be recording the video for an edited version. But that might be something to think about for a future project. I don't know whether I'll do it or not because it's a lot of work. My streaming equipment is not out in the workshop, it's in the house, and I'd have to set up a webcam or something to do it with. My laptop doesn't have a webcam in it, so I'd have to set up a separate camera in order to do that type of thing. But something that might entertain at some point, just so you guys can watch in real time how long it actually takes to do a repair. I guess what I could do is, rather than do that, just live stream the that's an idea, right? We're going to check the connectors on the end of it. I know there's a bit of rust in here, so obviously there's been some moisture's gotten in here at some point. But we'll remove the rest of the screws, open the camera up, and check it over. Side cover comes off quite easy on these cameras, as you can see. It is stuck right there. There we go. Alright, that's the side cover comes off. There's a catch on here. So there's evidence that this camera has certainly had some water ingress. You can see it on the bottom here. Whether it got into anything other than just the base plate here, but certainly it's been wet. You can see corrosion down here on the camera, on the base plate. I want to, we're just going to take this base plate off. I want to reseat these connectors because they are so problematic on these type of cameras that if it hasn't gone bad, it will. And I'll check them to see if there's any corrosion in here too. As you can see, as I remove this, there's more indication that there's been corrosion right in here. So water has gotten onto these ribbon cables. I'm curious as to whether it actually got into the connector at all, but it certainly is wet, or has been wet. We'll put a screwdriver behind it just to give it a bit of help. So I can put even tension on it to remove it, because I don't want to damage the connectors in any way. Of course, that one didn't come apart the way I wanted. The backing came off of it, but that's okay. We can stick that back on. Looks like there's been moisture that's been in here. Look at the pitting on this connector. So this one probably at one point was damp. Got some moisture on there. It seems to be working okay now, but it certainly has evidence that this one has been wet at one point in time or another. You can just tell by looking at it. They're not nice and shiny. Like these should be nice, shiny silver connectors, and that one's not. Anyway, I'll reassemble the edge connectors, and we'll fire the camera up and see how it looks. The guides are not loose on this one, so that is at least okay. I don't have to worry about the alignment being off on this camera. Of course, the concerning thing is this damage that was done, or any damage that was. It's dry now, so any damage that had been done has probably already happened, and the fact that it was working, I wouldn't worry too much about. It previously being wet, although it's certainly, the problem with anything that's ever had water damage is humidity can change and things can start acting up. I should be able to operate this unit with the side off, because the switch is on the front here. Interesting. It should thread up. So the connector that had the water damage is the one I was concerned about. This is the one over here that that has all the function switches for whether the tape door is open or closed on it. This is the one that had the corrosion on it. Hopefully it hasn't damaged the connector by moving it. This is the one that goes to down the front to all the switches, and there's a switch when you close it that tells the machine that tells the mechanism that the tape is in place ready to load. When that tape compartment is, there we go. Now it's detecting the switch. We'll try this again and see if it'll play. I have a picture. That's good. And I have sound. I'm going to put the bottom shield back on. I'll just reassemble the unit. And we'll see how it, if it records and so forth. But definitely that connector there was, this one here was certainly problematic, and would have likely caused some issues going forward. It still may, you know. It's the problem is when water's gotten in at some point, even though it's dry, the damage is done. But these edge connectors are so problematic, they cause so many intermittent problems that whenever you have one of these cameras, you really want to reseat them all. That's the only real way you can be sure that they are making a good connection, because as we saw on the last camera that I worked on, it seemed to be working fine for a while, and then all of a sudden when it was running, it just crapped out. Okay, put the front cover back on. You notice this camera has an incandescent light, movie light on them. 17-hour battery life, this one claims. That's, of course, with an extra long life battery. Get this damn thing back together, and it still won't load. I don't know if the switch has got a problem or what, or whether that connector, there's a little switch down there that gets activated when the lid closes. But now it's not, you know, it was working, and now it's not again after putting it back together. Wonderful. See, this is the stuff you guys didn't see on the stream, because I cut the stream off as I put the camera together. I cut the stream off. So, now I'm just dealing with the remainder of the problems on this thing, and I don't know where to go. I mean, it certainly was working when I had it apart, and I threw it back together, and it doesn't want to work again. I would think maybe that was part of the problem that he had and why he sent it to me in the first place. And it was just a fluke that it worked when I first tried it, because it certainly was playing, and the camera was working. I didn't try to make a recording on it, but it certainly was playing when I tried it. I hate these hand straps in the way too. So now we take this thing all apart again, and the guys that were watching live think everything's cool, and then they'll come back and watch the real video and see that it was a lot more involved than what the little live event that I did when I was working on this really involved. The amount of extra work I had to go to see why it's not working. It could be that connector is bad. Put the base off of it. See, there's where the fault is. This has got a problem right down here, and it's right on this connector here. It's not going to go down, and if I push it, see, if I push down like this, then it goes. So there is a connection problem right down here on this edge connector. But it looks like there might be some corrosion that's just causing one of the contacts to not make a good connection. We'll try cleaning this off. Yeah, I know, guys. I know the broadcast had no sound apparently, because I wasn't able to monitor it while I was recording or while I was streaming it. And I just happened to go back and look at it after, and all the comments, oh, there's no sound. Yeah, that's the thing with live TV, right? It's like Sometimes shit happens, so we'll try to rectify that on the next one. As I say, I put the camera up in the shop here, and I had a long cable going into the other room, and anyway, I couldn't see. I can't hear what I'm doing. Right, I can't hear the sound. And I guess there was no sound, and that's funny because the camera had sound on it last time I used it. I was using a different camera, so we'll see whether this will work. Clean that connector off a bit. See whether this will work. Put this thing back together a second time. Will it close? Okay, now it's going to close. So. Alright, put this thing back together a second time. Ah, man. Gotta hate that when that happens, right? But that's what happens when you get water into electronics. Water and electronics don't mix, and I'm not saying that the guy that owns this got water. He may have bought the camera with not knowing. You know, he may have picked it up or had it handed down to him or what, I don't know. But I mean, the evidence is clear that water has gotten into this at one point, and that was probably what's been causing his problems with it. Before reassembling the camera, I will check again to make sure that it's still going to open and close, because I don't need to take it apart a second time, or a third time I should say. Okay, so when the metal is in contact with it, it is not going to close. Interesting. Very interesting. So that's another issue that we need to address. Just when I thought that this was going to go back together and be done, it's got to do some more work. See, I think what's happened is it's just got some corrosion on it from when it got wet, and one of these is just not making a good connection to the plug. In the end here, I don't think I'm going to be able to save this one. This ribbon is corroded, and there's just not anything I can do that I can make this thing work where it's going to be reliable. It works sometimes and other times it doesn't. The only solution would be to replace this ribbon, which is part of this chassis assembly. Was never available as a separate unit. It was the entire chassis. That's the only way to do it, and I don't know what the shape of the connector is on the inside of this as well, because it's had water that's gotten into it. Water damage is the worst thing that can happen. And unfortunately, I think at this point I'm going to just have to wash my hands on this one, because anything I do to this camera, I can't guarantee it. It might work fine when it leaves here. I mean, I had it running, and then it stopped. Right, put it together, and just with the base on it, just that squeezing it was enough. But you can see where, you know, it's had water damage, and that's not the only one that's had water get in it. You can see water's gotten into all of them at some point. So there's evidence of water on here and on this one, and the thing is, it wicks into the connector and corrodes it, and there's just no way that one can guarantee that that they can make this thing work and make it last. So because of that, I'm going to put this one back together and just wash my hands of this one. It's a can of worms that I don't want to get into, to try to fix it and then send it all the way back, only to have it not work when it gets home, or not work very, very shortly after that. Water damage is damage that can't be repaired, and all the manufacturers, once a camera came in that had water in it, they wrote it off. So that's it, done. So that's what I'm going to do on this one. This one's now going to get written off. Well, I'm going to write it off. I'm not going to repair it. And we'll move on to the next one. Thanks for watching.